Hi ho, everybody. It's your humble host, Fido Kennington, and you're here for another episode of Hey Man, Nice Kiss Shirt. Good to have you back this week. We started out this pod, just me, with the tablecloth, uh, and we transitioned into the Kiss Army blanket, and now it's the Kiss sleeping bag. 1978 wonderfulness. It's a little worse for wear. 7 years old, taking it to every sleepover. Funny story about that kind of ties in with me and Powie. Great Expectations, our bassist, another good friend of mine, Dave Giroux. Shout out to Dave. Taking you back to 1986, my sophomore year. Dave would have been a senior. We didn't know each other from Adam. Our schools consolidated. So the summer before that year, we're just randomly assigned as roommates one time at band camp. And we were both in the drum line. And so I get the room first. And I had my Kiss sleeping bag. I didn't even know Dave was a Kiss fan, honestly. But it worked out great. So I made my bed, set up my tape deck and my tapes, and I had music going. I was just kind of making the place my own. I wanted the bed away from the window. I was hooking it up, and Dave come in and just freaked out. He saw the sleeping bag, and I think I had Rick Wakeman blaring from the tape deck. Dave ended up, not long after, a few years after, but, starting great acts with me and Powie and our buddy Jim, and the rest is history, our history, if you will. Now that the Catman's out of the bag, let's get into, before we get into the journal, what's in a name? Hey Man, Nice Kiss Shirt. Of course we got to talk about the shirt. So this week, another Alive Worldwide 96-97 reunion tour shirt. Last week, I stepped out of sequence, wore my Lost Cities from the same tour, but this is from Louisville, Kentucky, the night after Tiger Stadium, Detroit. So that would have been June 29th. Me and a couple of friends road trip down to Louisville, one of which was Brian Coggins, who replaced Dave as bassist. When we replaced Dave, Great Expectations became Sweet Pain. Anyway, that's another story. As most of you already know, It's All For You Demon brought this to us. It's a great book. If you don't have it, go to Amazon and get it. Rock and Roll All Night, Journal Every Day. A year-long guide celebrating the fun of being a Kiss fan. Thank you, Rick. March 5th. Did you ever own the Kiss Rock Sticks Puffy stickers from 1978? If so, where did you place them? Did you ever own the official collector's album for those stickers? Are those stickers on your Kiss collecting want list? Well, me personally, I never owned them, so I didn't place them anywhere. And I never owned the collector's album for those stickers. And they're not really on my want list. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have everything? But these would probably be down the list of ways. They weren't even really on my radar back in the day. So we can move on rather quickly to March 6th. How important was New York City to Kiss's success? Would it have been the same had the band originated from California? And I think it would have been different. I think the emphasis on the visual probably wouldn't have been as strong because of the glitter rock scene that was burgeoning in New York at that time, at Kiss's onset, with the New York Dolls, the Mercer Arts Center. Um, it was just a different vibe in California. California at that time, I mean, the Eagles were ascending. Things were a lot more mellow. And Kiss, their bombast, their energy, I think, the city sort of fed that. And so I think Paul and Gene realized they had to really knock them upside the head to make an impression. So, yeah, it would have been very different. March 7th asks, how would Kiss Animalize have been different had Vinnie Vincent remained in the band? List the tracks you feel would have contained stylistically different guitar solos. Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's no need to list those. I mean, I think everything would have been fundamentally different. I mean, when you think about Vinnie and his impact on the band, if he would have been a better fit, in other words, if he would have stayed, it's clear that Gene was checked out of Kiss in a lot of ways, and I think that had a lot to do with the problems that Vinnie brought to the band, and I think that if things had gone smoother, particularly between Gene and Vinnie, well, between Vinnie and Paul, for that matter, I like to imagine that Michael James Jackson would have stayed on to produce Animalize. It would have been more cohesive. Gene would have had he would have been more represented songwriting wise. Not to take anything away from Mark St. John, but I think that Animalize would have been a stronger album for it. Vinnie's songwriting was certainly something that was missed. The stylistic differences between Vinnie and Mark St. John could have been stronger. Vinnie can really condense it. I think he had a little bit more restraint. I think it would have made for a more powerful album. Not that I dislike Animalize, but it's not Lick It Up. So March 8th asks, how do you organize your Kiss music? Beans? The perils of doing a podcast with a cat who wants your attention. Tell you what, man. My cat Beans is over there just making a racket. And I'm sure you can hear it. But, okay, let's get back to March 8th. How do you organize your Kiss music? Has it always been organized the same way, your entire fandom, or do you change it up? What is a unique new way you could organize your Kiss music? It's just, I don't have a separate, my Kiss collection isn't vast enough that I need to have a separate space for it. I don't have a Kiss shrine. I don't have it consolidated. So in other words, I organize my Kiss music the way I organize the rest of my music. Albums, CDs, tapes, whatever. Just alphabetical by artist, chronologically within artist. So it's always been that way. I never change it up. A unique way that I could would be to separate the Kiss, to enshrine the Kiss. And if I were interested in, collecting all the pressing plant variants and things like that, I probably would set up a nice little area, my Kiss corner, if you will, and I would organize it thusly. But yeah, as far as unique new ways, I don't want to change it. I like the way it is. I mean, it's I know exactly where to go when I want to find some Kiss music. Moving on to March 9th. Have you ever seen the Kiss disco shirt? Image Clothing, 1978. In real life. Is this a piece you want to add to your collection? And how much would you be willing to pay? I've never seen the disco shirt. When I read the entry, initially, I thought it was, and I don't know if this was an Image Clothing piece or not, but there was a shirt that Everett Holman in my 6th grade choir class, I guess it would be the autograph shirt. You might call it the autograph shirt. I tried to get that shirt off of Everett's hands for that whole entire school year, and it never worked. So I did want that, but yeah, never saw the disco shirt, so I never never wanted it. Would I want to add it now? Might be a nice novelty, but I like to wear my Kiss shirts. So the chances of finding one of those in a large adult one makes you wonder if they were even made. So no, not really. Again, much like the puffy stickers, it's kind of down the list of aspirational acquisitions. Moving on to March 10th. Describe what you think it would have been like had Kiss unmasked in 1980. Would it have been a smoother transition into the 80s metal scene? Why? I remember thinking when I knew that the new record was called Unmasked, even before I saw the cover art, that was already a seed that was planted, thinking that they were going to take off the makeup. Now, as that relates to the 80s metal scene, I'm not sure what he means by that question. Possibly, referencing Kiss's leaning toward a harder edge after Unmasked and The Elder. I don't know that it would have made a smoother transition. Again, this kind of goes back to the whole hypothetical of Vinny, and but this takes it back a step further, and I think it's possible that it would have kept Ace in the band. Although I don't know that Ace would have been keen on unmasking. I do think that he would have preferred, a return to the meat and potatoes, harder edged OG Kiss form. I think Kiss could have stayed heavier. I think if they had unmasked after Dynasty, maybe it wouldn't have prevented, Peter leaving. Peter probably would have left anyway. But I think, if you try to imagine them taking off the makeup, getting Eric, I think that would have made his transition into the band a little more seamless. That whole experimental phase with the Hawk and and eventually the Fox. I think it would have been easier for Eric to integrate into the band had they not had to consider personas. So yeah, in that sense, I guess it would have made a smoother transition. But yeah, that's cool to think about, because then, would that have kept Ace in the band? I think the shift would have been a lot more radical than just, are we going to stay heavy or get heavier? I think it would have been a lot more profound than that had they taken off the makeup 3 years before they did. March 11th asks, regarding the formation of Kiss, which one member would you consider to be the most important, and why? This kind of goes back to my hypotheses about Gene and his restlessness in the band in the early 80s. And just his self-admitted selfishness. I could see Gene like trying to form his own band, leading it, singing, probably playing guitar and singing. I think that Gene needed somebody like Paul to really crystallize the parallels, if you will. I think they saw, especially, once they got Peter and Ace, I think they realized the parallels they could draw between themselves and the Beatles, and everybody sing and everybody write, and that sort of four-wheel drive approach. I don't think that without Paul, Gene would have been able to sacrifice his ego to that degree to really make that kind of band happen. I think it would have been, had he not met Paul, it would have been much, much more of a solo artist, or at least, singularly fronted band kind of thing. So I mean, my answer is Paul. Paul Stanley is crucial to the formation, the way it went down. I give Paul most of the credit for that. I think it would have been more individually focused if not for Paul. That's a short and sweet episode of Hey Man, Nice Kiss Shirt. Just you and me. Thanks for leaving comments, telling me your answers to these questions. We're going to be doing it again next week. Same book, same Fido. We might have a Powie, we might not. But I appreciate you tuning in for this episode. Put your two lips together and kiss that subscribe button. And remember, play hard, play fair, nobody hurt.